Welcome to Gatsby Unraveled. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Owen.
I am Jewel.
And I'm Cam.
Today we are going to discuss our thoughts on The Great Gatsby. Before we get into our main topic of discussion, Cam, what did you think about the novel?
So, I thought the novel was good. The start of it was kind of slow and kind of confusing to me, but once it reached the middle section, it got very good. And then the symbolization that the author uses to explain everything in the book is phenomenal. I love the way he uses colors, and he uses different moods and different weather to represent anything.
Yeah, I would agree with you, especially how you said at the start it was a little confusing because at the start of the book, I didn't even know if Gatsby was a real character or not. I didn't know if that was just Nick fantasizing, or I really didn't know what was going on. But I also I really liked the book. I thought it was a well-written book. Some of my favorite things about it were the imagery that the book used, because it's always good when there's cool things to look at in your head, like the mansions, the cars, the parties, the bright colors, and it was exciting.
Yeah, I totally agree with you guys. I think the book was really great. I think one of my favorite parts especially was the foreshadowing, because you read it one time and a lot of that you don't pick up on it, but then you read it again and you see how much is leading to the end of the book and Gatsby's demise. So I think Fitzgerald did a really good job of that, and like you guys said, with imagery and the mansions and stuff, I think he did a really good job of describing that.
Yeah,
I got a good picture of that.
I think it was a lot easier to pick up on the foreshadowing since we watched the movie beforehand.
Yeah,
and it was a lot easier to imagine the book in your head, all the visualization and all the pictures.
Another thing that I really liked about the book was the conflict between all the characters, whether it was an up close and personal conflict Gatsby and Tom. They had a real face to face conflict at some point, and then I also thought it was cool how there was a unknown conflict between Daisy and Myrtle, because Daisy didn't even really know who Myrtle was, but there was still a conflict between them because Tom was trying with both of them, and the conflict just kind of made the story what it was.
Yeah, that was definitely a good point. But I another one of my favorite things, especially about the characters, is how you discover more about them. Because especially Gatsby, he's super mysterious in the beginning. Mm-hmm. We don't know anything about him, and then we see him as a super rich, sophisticated man, and then find out that he was actually a criminal and grew up super poor.
Yeah.
So I think the characterization was really good.
Speaking back on what Owen said about all the characters, I like how they were all pretty much connected in a way, because even though they weren't connected face to face, it was they all played a part in each other's lives, even though they might not have known that. Daisy and Myrtle, for instance, Myrtle, she knew about Daisy, but Daisy didn't know about Myrtle. So it's she played a huge part in Tom and Daisy's marriage.
Well, Daisy kind of knew about Myrtle, because if you remember when Tom was on the phone and they were talking about that he has a mistress.
They all had the suspicion.
But it was just kind of a faceless person, and she didn't know who it was.
Yeah,
which I find kind of ironic that Daisy was the one that ended up killing her in the car accident. So I think that's kind of interesting.
Another thing that we haven't really talked about yet is I thought it was cool how we got to see this story from Nick's perspective, because it wasn't from Gatsby or Daisy. We didn't get to see get their thoughts and anything. It was all just from Nick's perspective, so he got to tell us how it actually happened, because it wasn't him that these things were happening to. He was just observing all of it, and that was a cool way to see the story.
Yeah, another part about that is one thing you especially notice, especially in the book, is that how Nick was kind of unsure about Gatsby for a while.
Yeah.
Until kind of more towards the end, and then he really thought he was a really good man, and that he didn't deserve what happened to him. So.
Yeah.
All right, are we ready to go on to the next section?
I believe we are.
All right. So for this next section, we are gonna talk about the different women in this book and how they each represent their own unique symbol. So, Drew, what are your thoughts on what Daisy represents in this book?
You know, I personally think Daisy was stuck in the middle here because, like you guys said, with Myrtle and everything and everyone else, like especially with Tom and Gatsby mainly, is that you know, she was married to Tom for like 5 years, so obviously there was some love there at one point.
Yeah.
But she also still loved Gatsby, especially when he came back. She still loved Gatsby, but also loved Tom. So she was stuck in the middle here and didn't really know like what to do, which is why like when they're in the apartment, she was saying like please stop, like 'cause she was pressured and just didn't really know what to do with her emotions, and she got pretty overwhelmed.
Yeah, I think that apartment scene was a very tense situation for Daisy because she had her 2 lovers in there and they were fighting over her, and then she didn't know like who to choose because her emotions were all over the place since she loved 2 men at the same time.
Yeah, I think like based on that scene and just how she acted around Gatsby compared to Tom, like I feel like deep down she did love Gatsby like more than she did Tom.
Yeah.
And I feel like she wanted to be with Gatsby more than Tom, but she also knew that like she was already married. They said they had a kid, right?
Yeah.
So they already had a family, so like she probably didn't want to. That was probably like the main pressure for her there is she knew she wanted to be with Gatsby more, but just like morally she couldn't, and she probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
So that's why
She didn't want to get a bad reputation over that.
Yeah, because I mean, especially back then, you know, women weren't like treated that well. You know, they were just supposed to be like stay at home, and you know, like stay at home housewives.
Yeah.
But I think especially one of the main reasons she loved Gatsby more was that like Gatsby didn't see her that way.
like Gatsby saw her as like the
goddess.
chosen one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Tom just saw her as like a wife and like someone to, I guess, cheat on and someone to do like everything for him.
I think Tom kind of more saw her as like kind of like to show her off, like that's what he thought.
She was like the trophy, basically.
Yeah.
And he didn't have to treat her with respect because he was some incredibly wealthy and respected man, so he can just do what he pleases.
And he thought he could just buy her love with money. Like,
Yeah,
I think it was before their wedding. He had like $100,000 pearls or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree with all the things we've said about Daisy's, the symbols that she represents and all that, but still, Daisy's character she's just really hard to decipher because you could say, like, obviously she is definitely a symbol of beauty because that's the main thing that was talked about her in the book, but when you say she's a symbol, like when we say she's a symbol of love, like she is, but also it's like in a twisted way because for Gatsby it's definitely like he loves her and that's the thing, but with Tom, Daisy is more like he loves her, but it's again he cheats on her. He doesn't really respect her, obviously, if he's gonna cheat on her and do all that. So it's just like it's hard to put a name to it exactly. But it's just different.
Yeah, I agree. There's no really good way to like pinpoint like what she like represents here in like a positive way, I guess. Like you said, love, if it's like twisted. Like, I
It's just in
completely
a
agree with
weird
that.
way.
Yeah, Daisy is she doesn't have like a set symbol to her, but I feel that Jordan, on the other hand, her set symbol has to be like the independence she has, and she doesn't need a man to rely on, and she could do everything on herself.
Yeah,
because she plays golf and she's beautiful. She's athletic, and she doesn't really get around with men too much. I don't think. I think it's only been Nick and then maybe a couple before, but they never really talked about that.
I think most of her success just came from her own achievements. Like you said, golf. Like she was like a pro golfer. So I think she's definitely like independent in that. Like she didn't have to marry a man to become wealthy.
I was gonna say it's different for most women at the time because, I mean, think about just Daisy and Myrtle and all the like those characters. Their power and importance, it only comes from men. Like Myrtle is only relevant in this book because a powerful, wealthy man is cheating on his wife with her, and Daisy is just desired by men, and that's where all the conflicts come from. So it's very different because Jordan is like she's not known because of men. She brought herself to power.
Yeah.
She's not she's not trying to go for some wealthy man to make her look good. She's just doing her own thing and doing what she wants, and it's cool because no other woman during this time really does that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she was really brought in by Daisy because she was only known as Daisy's friend, and she had like connections with Gatsby as like a friendship and whatever, but she was mostly around Daisy all of the time.
Well, I'm pretty sure the reason that Gatsby and Jordan were connected was to try and get closer to Daisy, is what Gatsby was trying to do. So,
because I don't think they met, but like 5 years before they started connecting again, it was Daisy and Gatsby, and they were sitting in that car talking to each other, and then Jordan was near. I don't know if they were connected then, but they definitely ran into each other once or twice before.
Yeah. And about what Owen said with Myrtle is like, that brings me to another point with Myrtle, is that like, I think she's kind of another hard character to like just to say what she symbolized, because like obviously her and Tom were like they had an affair on not just Daisy but also Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
And that leads us to our big like conflict, or like the peak of the story when Wilson comes and shoots Gatsby because he thought Gatsby was the one fooling around with Myrtle. So I feel like Myrtle, like what do you guys think Myrtle's symbol would be?
So
like,
Myrtle in this story, like literally the whole time, she's just a symbol of like mischief and lust and wrongness. Like everything that was involving Myrtle was wrong, because whether it was Tom and Myrtle, she was obviously cheating on her husband. Tom was cheating on his wife. If it was just Myrtle and Wilson, Myrtle didn't treat Wilson with respect. Obviously, she's going out and cheating on him. Yeah. And then, Myrtle is just she's really just a negative character. She only had a negative impact. And yeah, you
could say that Myrtle was like kind of Tom's guilty pleasure, because he knew that he probably shouldn't have been messing around with her, and then that caused problems. But I feel like he knew he could buy his way back into like Daisy's heart, and he gave Myrtle a pearl necklace too. So I feel like she was really with him because she loved him, but she also wanted money.
Yeah.
And it's the same way with how she wanted to buy a dog for the apartment that they were staying in.
I think that's really Tom's main way of getting anything in this book, and any of the girls that he's been with in the relationships, is just money.
Yeah.
That's all it is for him, is money and power.
And I think that definitely could correlate to like real life, because I feel like there's a lot of wealthy people that kind of just get like what they want just by buying their way through it.
Just because they're rich, have a lot of money, and know a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yep.
And those three girls have to be the main women in the book. I don't think there's many other women that popped up besides there was a black woman who was singing in the apartments, but she didn't really play a role at all. I think she was just background character.
Yeah.
But it's definitely Daisy as the biggest one, and then it's probably Jordan second, and then Myrtle. Because Myrtle, she doesn't play the biggest role until the end, when the biggest conflict happens, where she just dies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Daisy definitely plays the biggest role, like you said, and then Myrtle second, because she's obviously the reason that everything at the end of the book happens. And Jordan did have an impact, I think, especially on Nick mainly, and kind of like how they reconnected. Jordan was there for that.
Yeah.
But then other than that, like, we didn't really see her a whole lot throughout the book.
I also want to hit on something you guys were saying about Daisy being playing the biggest role out of all the girls. So I think why Daisy played the biggest role in this book is, again, it's not because of anything she did. It's because of the men, the powerful men in the story that make her the most important piece, because Gatsby looked at Daisy like she was his goddess. She was the only thing in the world that mattered to him. And he really gave her, like, the story's only purpose was her, basically, just because of what he thought about it and the conflicts that arose from that because of Gatsby and Tom and just all that stuff. So
Yeah, about like what you said about Daisy being Gatsby's goddess, like I think that's a double-edged sword there, because it's like a good thing in a way, because like he's gonna like hold her above everything else,
yeah,
which can be good, but like if you do that too much and you die for someone, I mean, like I guess under certain circumstances, but like in this one, in this case where you're not even together anymore, like
and
it's
this
been
dude killed the wrong person.
yeah,
too.
it's been 5 years. Like I would say Gatsby pretty much died for nothing. Like especially when he took
Yeah.
the blame.
Yeah, he
like,
makes it seem like it's all for nothing at that point.
Yeah, I think they definitely could have like you said with the rich and powerful people, they could have bought their way like out of that, like
Yeah.
with the crash.
Yeah,
But instead, he just took the blame, and then Wilson ended up shooting him in the end. So
Do you
Yeah.
think that he was taking the blame because he really loved Daisy, or do you think he took it that way, like she wouldn't get in trouble and then she'd thank him in a way and like him even more, I guess?
I honestly think that was just Gatsby's way of. I think that's what he was gonna do no matter what. Just
Yeah.
because he has so much love and respect for her, no matter the situation there. I think he was taking that blame no matter what, just to protect her. And
Yeah.
if anything else came from that, good for him. But I just think he was doing anything he could to protect her at that point.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Thinking about that even more, it does talk about how he was like a super generous guy in the novel. Like when he threw his parties and some people like had an accident, he'd like go over there, be super polite, and like help them clean it up or
Yep.
whatever.
yeah,
And I think it's very ironic, kind of, how it's the 1920s, and I'm pretty sure that was the flapper era.
yeah,
And it's like the women are still I wouldn't say really dependent on the men in this book, but the men definitely play like one of the biggest roles in like the women's life in the
Yeah.
book. Besides Jordan really represents like a flapper at the time.
Yeah, I agree with that, because Jordan's character was like something that you didn't see. That was something that, I mean, no other girl in this story or really around in this case was like that. She was the only one that was out doing her own thing, not being controlled by a man. She was just free, basically.
yeah.
And I think that could symbolize like a feminism or like a feminist perspective, because Jordan, I feel like she really just cares about herself. She cared about Nick, but I feel like she really embodies like that feminist like kind of vibe.
Like, in a way, she was a little selfish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's like one of the big reasons why when her and Nick broke up and they didn't get back together, but they like met each other somewhere, and she was like full of herself at the time, and she was like trying to prove that she was bigger than Nick by saying that she has like a husband now, or she's dating someone new. So I think that's
Yeah, the one thing that I would say about what you guys said about Jordan being a flapper is like, personally, when I think of a flapper, I think of like, not only they were independent, but they were rebellious. Like,
Yeah.
instead of being loyal to their man, they kind of like went around a little bit and went with different men, and kind of like just like were with them and kind of shoving it in their face, kind of like what you said with Jordan at the end, how she kind of did that, but like I don't think it was severe enough to where it was like the flapper. But like that's just kind of what I think of the definition of flapper when I think of it.
Yeah, I think it showed that a lot in the movie, because in the movie it didn't really seem like they were dating too much, but she was always going to parties with different men. But I don't think she did that as much in the book.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting, because in the movie, it really, like, I didn't know Nick and her were dating in the movie.
Yeah, I didn't
like
know that.
I didn't think that was really shown in the movie, but in the book that was kind of a important little like side piece really, because it wasn't like a main focus or anything, but yeah, it was cool to see, I guess.
Yeah. And I think that them ending the relationship, I think Nick really did that because he didn't want to be connected to like Gatsby or West Egg or East Egg or any of that anymore. He wanted to be free from all that trauma that he went through. Because, I mean, if Gatsby did die, and he probably doesn't want to have those memories anymore. So that's why he's in the psych ward, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why he's writing this novel.
Which does it really say that in the book?
About him being
that's
like
where
in
he's
the
at?
psych ward and all
Yeah.
that. I don't think it did.
I don't know if it really hit that, but
Because in the movie, that was like they started off. He was with like a therapist, right?
Yeah.
He was discussing like his problems and all that. I don't think they hit on that in the book at all, really.
yeah,
Or I don't think they did at all.
No, I think it really just said that he was writing about it, like his past or his experience or something.
yeah.
Is there anything else we want to cover on?
One thing that I think is another important thing we should talk about is Gatsby's, like this is again with the woman obviously, Gatsby's like illusion and reality, because that had a big effect on a lot of things in the book. So I think Gatsby, he had this illusion for Daisy and how the world should be for them, and it ended up messing a lot of things up, because with him thinking all these things and believing in all this made him convince Daisy to literally tell her husband that she doesn't love him and wants to be with somebody else, and like that led to all the main conflicts in the book just because of his illusions. But in reality, he wasn't even like believing that Daisy loved Tom at one point.
Yeah.
He was just so blinded by everything that came with Daisy that he really couldn't see what was right in front of him.
Yeah,
I think another thing with his illusions is like, especially when they first meet in Tom's house, is that he was expecting so much more, because like he thought about it so much. He was expecting her to like I don't know, probably like chase after him and like.
Yeah, I actually think that was one thing that kind of should have showed him that reality might not have been what he had in mind, because that scene was weird. Like it really was. It was awkward. He walked in and they didn't talk. They looked at each other, and he stood like a weirdo, like knocking things over, and it was just weird. But
yeah, I think he had too much of a perfectionist mindset. How he wanted everything to be exactly perfect when he met Daisy, and then how everything went. Because if one thing went wrong, like if she, for example, like if she were to make like a different facial expression from what he would think that she'd make, he'd like get upset and super nervous. Like he was super nervous about everything, and I feel like he was super delusional.
like every little thing threw him off.
Yeah,
Like, he was not in the right state of mind.
Gatsby was so delusional that he thought he could turn back time, like especially in that scene where they're talking, like I think right outside the pool.
Yeah.
And he was saying like, Nick said, "You can't turn back time," and then he goes like, "Sure, I can."
It's like you
And
can.
he like truly believes that he can like redo it.
And that really shows how connected, or how much he wants Daisy back, and how much he thinks highly of her.
Yeah, and then that brings us back to like the goddess part. Is that like he like truly like worships her almost.
Yeah, really everything leads back to Daisy for him.
Yeah.
Like, every problem, every positive thing, all the money that he's made, it all leads back to Daisy, and that's, again, like that just is more proof that she really is the biggest woman role in this book, because she's all that matters to him, and that makes that stand out a lot.
And when you think about it, like Gatsby bought an entire mansion across the bay just so he could see where Daisy's at.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Which
And
I
he
think
threw all these crazy parties and made all these connections and did all that literally just for Daisy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she never showed up. And I don't know if she didn't show up because she didn't know it was Gatsby, or if she was like afraid to because of Tom or something. Because I don't think they really explain that in the book too much.
I honestly feel like she really didn't know.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Because I think when Jordan brought it up when they were at dinner, I don't think she really knew or was like paying attention. Because when Jordan was like, "You must know Gatsby," I don't think really like Daisy or anyone else really acknowledged it.
So when Daisy and Gatsby, but like back in the day, first met and all that, was his name at that point Jay Gatsby, or was it Jay Gats right there?
I believe it was Jay Gatsby, I think.
Because I wasn't sure, because maybe she heard Gatsby and didn't know if it was him because he was Jay Gats at the time, but I really can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it was Jay Gatsby at the time.
Yeah, because yeah.
So that would make the most sense.
Yeah.
Because if his last name was Gats, I don't think it'd be. I mean, Gats and Gatsby are sort of close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think she'd be, because when Jordan was talking about it at dinner, she like seemed very concerned about it. Like she really wanted to know who this Gatsby guy was, and know if it was actually Jay or some other guy.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I think we're ready to wrap it up. Do you guys have anything else to add?
I think I said everything that I needed to say.
Yeah, I think we covered a really good amount of the role of women in The Great Gatsby.
Yeah, I would agree. All right. See you guys next week in episode 4.